and founder at Carbon Analytics, Juan Pablo Seda, the CEO at Zago, Dr. Sean Simpson, the founder and chief science officer at Lanza Tech. And now I think we need to start our discussion. Dr. Juan.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with such a great group of panelists. In the previous preparation of this panel, I was learning a lot about what the cool cases we have with data and AI. And that's something that I really appreciate, because to me, sometimes the debate about AI is going to the wrong direction in terms of too many risks, what's going to happen, we are threatened, we're going to lose our jobs. Actually, these kind of panels can show that AI is bringing us as a blessing, actually, right? And that's why I think it's so important to talk about AI and data in the context of something as big as sustainability. I would love to start the discussion with a question. And the question is like for the panelists to complete a sentence, right? And this sentence is quite simple, but I think, I hope I get your inspiration behind that, right? The sentence is very simple. The sentence is, I think AI is a killer application for sustainability because. I would love to give the kind of the first word to Mike.
Sure. I think AI is a key enabler for sustainability, because really what we're trying to do with sustainability is understand reality and regulate and modify the way that we act as humans. And I think AI has a key role in helping us more quickly and more accurately understand reality so that we can react to it and be more sustainable.
Fantastic, very inspiring. So what about Juan Pablo, what would you say about that?
Yes, thank you, Juan. Yes, I think AI can be a good enabler for sustainability because it can help us predict the future. And based on that, it can help us have a better understanding on what to expect and to make better informed decisions as well.
Very cool. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, thanks, Juan. So, from all of us here are very concerned about climate change, and we realize that in order to avert the worst manifestations of climate change, we're in a race against time. And in this race, it's imperative that we roll out technologies that are able to deliver the things that we need in societies in a way that has minimal or brings minimal impact on our climate. To do this, we need very, very new processes. But we need very, very new processes to be deployed at scale at an unbelievable speed. AI can help in that rollout by enabling sort of more sophisticated process control, by enabling more predictive processes to be deployed in order to smooth this transition that we need to make from a fossil-based economy to a sustainable economy.
Fantastic. And then pleasure. Michael.
Oh, well, I think the gents have said it all. I mean, there's clearly something there about the scale and the velocity and the speed that we need to move. There's absolutely something about modeling and prediction, but there's also something there about the fact that we're dealing with an imperfect world, and we're dealing with imperfect sort of processes and processes that are not particularly clear to us. So I think that is where AI can assist in terms of a range of different data qualities and different sources, and lots of holes in our knowledge as well. So I would add that in too.
Very cool. No, thank you for this kind of for helping me setting the scenes in such a nice and inspiring way. I think we all love creating impact with AI data for sustainability. Now my question is for the round, when we talk about sustainability, we often face a problem, which is it's very difficult to measure. it's very difficult to quantify. And if I act on something, it's very difficult to know, how much of an impact I've created as a single person. At Ion, for example, we try to use the smart metadata to come up with ways of that's your CO2 footprint. And if you did that, then you could be kind of offsetting so much. Some of the kind of companies that you are representing or you are kind of leading, they are specializing actually measuring on the measuring part. Who would love to kind of share a bit of views on how important it is to measure sustainability?
I can maybe kick it off in the first instance. I mean, for us, we're commercializing a process that converts various above ground carbon waste streams into sustainable fuels, chemicals, materials, and protein. And in order to have credibility in our kind of commercial journey, it is absolutely imperative that we have a credible carbon life cycle analysis, that we have a justifiable understanding of the environmental benefit that we bring, because frankly our customers are motivated, our direct customers and our downstream customers are directly motivated by the credibility of the sustainability narrative that they can adopt through us. And so that's something that's absolutely essential.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. What about the views from, for example, the company Carbon Analytics? I mean, it's about that, right? Analytics for carbon footprint. What would you say? How did you face the issue of measurability? How did you turn it into your product, actually?
Yeah, absolutely. That is our product. Is measuring, and I think it's the axiom is correct. You can't manage what you can't measure. So I really think that what we focus on as a business is bringing the tools to companies and to the wider economy to quickly and accurately and completely measure carbon footprints for businesses. And the way we do it is by transforming accounting data, which reduces the time costs and expertise required. But I think just from a system level, it's if again, just to go back to the idea of the human machine, we're designing all these systems. We have this wonderful system of capitalism that moves goods and services around the world, make sure you know exactly what a hamburger is supposed to cost, but without the measurement of the external impacts and an understanding of how that hamburger impacts the climate and other systems, we're going to inevitably trample those systems. So I think the phase that we're at in terms of sustainability largely is about re-instrumenting that human system to understand more, to sense more. Just almost like humans have 5 senses. We've got to go from 1 sense to 2 senses, and hopefully 3 senses for the global economy. And I think measurement is kind of the first key step there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. From my experience, something that is when you measure things in euros or in dollars, right, in money. And I think, for example, Juan Pablo, you can share with us some experiences in how kind of this energy economics can quantify, also make a huge impact when we talk about sustainability.
Yes, absolutely. So the way we are actually using AI or actually machine learning, to be more specific, is in 2 different ways. So the first one is measuring, analyzing, and matching buyers and sellers. But the second one is a fundamental piece of the whole puzzle, and is predicting price of energy in the long term. And that is super, super important, because that is the decision-making point where a lot of corporations and large organizations can commit to a long-term agreement, which subsequently will fund the developer and make more renewable energy happen, right? Get more wind farms and solar farms off the ground. So if a corporate doesn't have the visibility of price in the long term, then they cannot commit to a long-term agreement. And it's very, very difficult to do that. So why are we using ML to predict the price? Very, very simple. Right now, the model is based on a fundamental analysis of the price, and is like a prediction based on demand, technology, commodity price, etc. Now that model is okay, but the problem is like it varies so much from company to company. So the company is trying to predict the price right now using the fundamental model. The difference between their forward curves is huge, right? So some of them think the price is going to be like near zero in the future. Others think it's going to skyrocket. So that difference is huge. So what we're doing is using machine learning algorithms to look at the past, historic data, gather as much data as possible, and understand what are the drivers that in the past have reacted to price movements, and then do a forecast. So we use artificial neural networks to create different scenarios of pricing modeling, and then trying to predict the prices as accurately as possible in the future. The big challenge that we're having is availability of data. So, you know, and I think like for everyone using machine learning models, data is a fundamental part of it, because you need to feed the system with a lot of data for them to do, you know, to learn and do predictions.
I share the pain of not having the right data on a daily basis, actually. Yeah, I would like to ask now, Michael, to politics, right? You are specializing in something very particular, an aspect of sustainability, which is kind of waste. And that's super relevant because actually that's something that we sometimes don't have on the radar. We think that, well, we need to kind of adopt more renewables and so on, which is completely okay. But actually, if we address waste in the proper way, we could even kind of foster the circular economy idea. And so how do data matter to you? How are you using kind of data and algorithms for waste management?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, waste is clearly a subset of a much broader agenda on sustainability, isn't it? So, you know, we've got social, community, economic aspects, and even within environments, you've got a wide range of things. So, but actually, if you look at the waste system and the waste industry globally, it's really complicated. So you've got multiple materials that are moved by multiple players through multiple locations, and the outcomes for that material vary enormously. And it's regulated in different ways in different countries. The commercial models are very different. The way different companies measure and describe that material is very different. So to Juan Pablo's point about the way those different companies measure it, that actually creates real sort of a lack of transparency in the system. And so there's really a sort of lack of a really good view of what's happening across that whole kind of waste system. And as a consequence, more than 60% of the material that we're generating or waste in our cities is still going into a waste dump or is leaking into the environment. So the outcomes are not good. So we think actually you can apply sort of machine learning, and we do quite a lot of geospatial analytics as well, to that data from those different sort of sources, those different companies, and we can start to build a better version of what we call it the waste truth. It's a sort of a better version of it, so that actually for those companies in that value chain, they can start to build better business models, and we can start to improve the overall level of recovery of that material. So we can't do what we do without getting access to that kind of data. So for us, building a better version of the truth and a higher level of confidence in what we see in the waste system is absolutely sort of crucial to what we're doing.
That's fantastic. I can already see a theme in our discussion, which is transparency, which is very important. I also like a lot this, once we have the right data, Juan Pablo, provided that we have the right data, then we can really start exploiting and harnessing the power of this data, creating kind of predictions to take the right decisions. What my feeling so far is like you guys are specializing with your own companies and something very concrete, right? What about kind of, let me dream out loud now, right? What about a setup where actually you could partner, for example, say Topolytics and carbon analytics? why not? It's like you are using geographical systems, you are using kind of quantification. One could be bringing kind of the CO2 measurement, the other ones, the waste measurement. How do you, that's an open question for the round, right? For whomever wants to pick it up. How do you think, how important is tailoring the right partnership in this space?
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that one. We really view partnership as super important, and we do a lot of it. So yeah, we would love to partner with everyone here, and really everyone watching. And I guess the view we take is we're going to try to become specialists in one kind of narrow slice of the bigger problem. But it's such a big problem. It's it would be kind of silly to think that we could become experts in waste as well as water and social issues. And I think that's true for pretty much any company in the space. There's so much to tackle. If we can all kind of build our specialities, get really good at it, and build our systems to be interoperable, which we've done. We've got a whole set of APIs that we love to partner with people on. I think that we can we can kind of build the Voltron of sustainability. Tackling super machine. I think partnerships are critical. I think the other piece where partnerships are important is, trust and transparency are important, and I think a key element of that is freedom of choice. And so if you can allow people to buy into one piece of a system, but not need to be locked into, the megalith of whatever it is, Amazon Inc. sustainability for the whole world, I think you'll end up with a lot more buy-in from people, a lot more willingness to share data, and to you'll end up with better outcomes, and we can get a lot more smart brains at the table if we're all willing to partner.
I think that the point you make, Michael, about trust and certainty and credibility is so critical, actually. We need to transition to a point where people go to a gas station, or people go to a store, and they put fuel in their car, or they buy something from a shelf without very much understanding of where it's come from. People actually really genuinely don't care. And now we're asking people to transition away from this to something else. And we have to have real credibility around the motivation for that transition. That transition has to be super, super credible. Not only the reason for the transition, sort of trying to mitigate climate change, but also the veracity of the solution being offered. And I think that it's only through partnership across the spectrum of solutions can you build that level of societal trust that ultimately will motivate the transition that we all agree needs to occur.
Yeah, I think there's another word, isn't there, for partnership, which in a tech sense is ecosystem. And it is that idea that the partnerships can take many forms, and they could be around technology and something that you don't do, but as Michael was saying, that that somebody else does, and that's their specialism. It could be a commercial arrangement in terms of a channel and a route into new customers and other customers, or it could be a straight up sort of joint venture, for example, those kind of things. Or so I think for me, I think of it in that way, sort of building out an ecosystem of different types of organizations, and even sort of government agencies as well, that can kind of help to sort of create a much better and much more sort of powerful sort of proposition, rather than just us sort of trying to sort of plow our own furrow.
One discussion point here, maybe when we think of partnerships and when we think of transparency, at the end we talk about sharing data, right? Yet, for example, I can imagine for businesses like Juan Pablo's, obviously data is what your kind of core competitive advantage, right? How can we just create a culture where actually it's not bad to share data for a bigger good? Right? I think it's a big question, but I would love to hear your kind of impressions on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Juan. And I think it all comes down to partnerships could be a great way, but also just sharing data and being transparent about data. It's fundamental. So, for example, we came into an industry that there was no transparency. So, for example, what we do as a company is power purchase agreements. And before, if you wanted to know what kind of price you can achieve as a corporate, you had to go through a consultancy, pay a lot of money to understand what projects are out there and what kind of prices you can achieve. What we're doing is bringing transparency into the market and bringing, like, basically sharing data with, we share our data to build reports with S&P Platts and Bloomberg, so that the whole industry and the whole commercial sector can understand what kind of prices are in what regions, right? And we do that with live data. And that's just a small example, but if everyone, like, you don't have to disclose your trade secrets or your, how you do business or whatever. Just basically sharing high-level information that will be useful for other companies. And if every company does that in an open way, then we'll have enough data in general to feed each other as a kind of network and ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a wish which I share, right? We have, I think, depends on the country or depends on the kind of continent. You have certain regulations to adhere to. Sometimes we face that as we don't have kind of a legal mechanism to put in place data sharing, right? That's something that I'm rising as much as I can with the guys in Brussels. We need a mechanism. Something like a data commons, something like that, right? That could be really, really handy here in this situation. One question now, a bit of different, right? When we think about sustainability, we maybe think something very narrow. Or everybody interprets their own sustainability or kind of select the SGD the most convenient one, right? How do you think that what you are doing with your own companies, right, is helping all across these SDGs, not just a particular one, right? I know it's a bit of a bigger question here again, but it's a good kind of point for a panel, right? Who would like to pick this up?
Oh, go on then. I'll give it a go. Well, in relation to the SDGs, so if you think about waste, well, there's clearly a relationship with sustainable production and consumption. I mean, there's a very obvious link into that one. But of course, waste, if you look at certain countries, there are real issues. It's a social issue as well as an environmental issue. So that plays into that particular agenda, and fair, sort of poverty and fair pay and those kind of issues, diversity as well within that, if you like, that wider industry. And then you've got the things like smart cities. So you've got, the whole IoT, sort of sensor machine to machine piece happening within the waste sector, autonomous vehicles, bin sensors, those kind of things. So I think I wouldn't lay claim that it plays across all of them, but there are certainly those that it definitely sort of plays to.
Any other opinions on that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in. I mean, I think a big part of our mission, I guess, is just really to shift capitalism to a new form and to really move it to one that understands more than just price and becomes, sort of multivariate capitalism, if you will, that understands waste, it understands social issues. And really all of what these have in common is that they are unintended consequences of our actions in our economies. And so I think we're all sort of working, in a way, if we can figure out how to solve any piece of this system, it can help us solve the greater challenge of, hey, we have this world, we do all these great things, but it has all these unintended consequences that we didn't mean. So really, if we look ahead 50 years and we've solved it all and we've done it, I think it's a system where a lot of those unintended consequences are automatically measured, managed, either offset or dealt with in some way. And it's a nice, smoothly working system that you don't need to think about, just the way you don't need to think about, the 100 manufacturers that technically go into, say, a hamburger again with its wrapper and pieces built all over the world. And at some point this becomes each of us are working on an aspect of what is really a generalizable problem of unintended consequences, I guess. That's my attempt at that.
I agree. I think climate change is a complex problem. There's no one solution for it. I think it all comes back to what we were speaking about before, about then building a network, collaboration, et cetera, because every company that is here and out there can contribute to a certain aspect of the whole network. And I think tackling climate change and the problem as a whole should be a joint effort rather than a single-sided focus sort of thing.
Very good. Sean, one question for you specifically, because when I read what your company does, I was very kind of, I would say even flashed away, because in your case, you have the interface between organic and digital, right? Mm-hmm. You are kind of in between both. And I think to me, right, it's fascinating because actually you can really re-engineer organic systems to become more sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we talk a lot here about dealing with waste and being able to process new sources of carbon and energy to produce sustainable products. And the challenge with that is the waste streams that the resources that we seek to transform into fuels, chemicals, materials, and proteins are quite chaotic. They're quite chaotic in composition and varied in composition. But actually in nature, the ability to process chaotic inputs into quite defined outputs is baked in. Yeah, so if you think about a microbe living in a thermal vent in the bottom of the sea, it can deal with pressure, it can deal with a chaotic environment, and it actually is hardwired to produce certain products very, very efficiently. And it's really about harnessing the ability to transform chaotic, carbon-rich inputs into defined products that we seek to deploy at an industrial scale to allow us to repurpose the waste streams that Michael had talked about, and but also industrial off gases and waste from agriculture, etc., into the fuels, chemicals, materials, and food of the future. So that we're not pulling carbon out of the ground, but we're taking advantage of the above ground carbon resources that we have. There's plenty of carbon in the world. It's just in the wrong place. Yeah.
Let me stop you there, because we have 2 minutes. I would love to give you all 30 seconds to finish off expressing a wish. Right? What do you wish to make sustainability happen? Right? What was your personal wish? Maybe you can start, Sean.
My personal wish is actually that we unite in an ambition to accelerate. I think we massively underestimate the speed at which we need to go to make this transition. We need to unite to accelerate.
Very cool. Michael?
Well, I think building on that, I think we need to think positively. I think, obviously there's a lot of worry and gloom around the challenges we face, but arguably it's one of the biggest commercial opportunities we've ever been faced with. So I think, thinking like that can help to drive new businesses and entrepreneurs and new opportunities and new technologies.
Thank you, Juan Pablo.
My wish is that more companies adopt more sustainable practices and look at different options. There's a lot of really amazing companies out there really considering sustainability as a key part of what they offer. So I wish everyone was more transparent with data and everyone share more information and there was a strong network of information around to allow more access to these companies and these organizations.
Thank you. Mike, you're last.
Yeah, I guess my wish would be everyone listens to these wishes and jumps on. I mean, I think we've got the technology, we've got the know-how, we have the resources. We know this is within our financial capability to do as a planet, and I think we just gotta dig in and get after it. So yeah, I'm hopeful as well, and I wish everyone would be too.
Thank you very much. My personal wish would be all panels. It would be like this one. It was really inspiring, really funny, and I really enjoy a lot. Thanks a lot for spending this time here, and thanks a lot for your great contribution. I really enjoyed that personally. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Juan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for a very lively panel. Thank you, Dr. Juan, for moderating this panel. Thanks, everybody. And we've got more panels ahead.